Hello all, welcome to the Counting Well exam prep live session. Before we start the session, let me inspire you a bit. Remember that if you really want to do something, you will find a way, and if you don't, you will find an excuse. We know that exams are around the corner, the books are ready. So let's start practicing and revising the concepts before it's too late. For this, stay tuned to the session and build up the confidence to face your exams. In this session, I will take you through two chapters: comparing quantities, direct and inverse proportion from class 8. Let us see some basics from the chapter comparing quantities. Let us see what is a percentage. A percentage means per 100. So percentage. The name itself says it is percentage. So the representation is by the symbol shown here. So 5% is nothing but 5 upon 100 or 5 out of 100. Let us see how to convert fraction to percentage. If you want to convert fraction 3 by 4 to percentage, we multiply that fraction by 100. So this will be 3 by 4 into 100, which is 75%. Conversely, if you want to convert percentage to a fraction, you will do 60 upon 100. So percentage nothing but upon 100. So it will be 3 by 5. To convert decimal to percentage, you need to multiply by 100. So you'll have 50% here. Conversely, 45% is nothing but 45 upon 100, which is 0.45. Let us see increase or decrease in percentage. Increase or decrease upon original amount into 100. So if the cost of pen is increased from rupees 5 to rupees 8, the increase in percentage will be the difference between the cost, that is 8 minus 5, divided by the original cost of the pen or the initial cost. So it will be 5 rupees. So we have 3 by 5 into 100, which is 60%. So when we say the cost of pen is increased from rupee 5 to rupee 8, it is nothing but we have got 60% increase in the cost of that pen. Let us see what is profit and loss. So we get profit when the selling price of the object is greater than the cost price of that object. Then profit is nothing but selling price minus cost price. Whereas loss is nothing but cost price minus selling price whenever we have cost price greater than selling price. Let us see how to find profit percentage. Profit percentage is found by profit divided by cost price into 100. Since we are multiplying by 100, we'll get percentage or percent or per 100. So when the cost price is rupees 200, selling price is rupees 300, obviously we are getting profit here as the selling price is greater than the cost price. So profit percentage will be the difference of cost price and selling price. So here we have done selling price minus cost price, which is 300 minus 200, which is equal to 100. And the profit or the loss are calculated on the cost price. That's why we are taking cost price in the denominator. So we have 100 upon 200 into 100, that is 50%. So the profit is almost 50%. Let us see what is loss percentage. Loss is nothing but cost price minus selling price, because the cost price will be greater than the selling price. So we first calculate the loss. It is cost price minus selling price, which is 500 minus 300. So we have 200. Since the loss percentage is calculated on the cost price, we have cost price in the denominator multiplied by 100. So we have 40%. So when the cost price of an object is rupees 500, selling price is rupees 300, the loss percentage is 40%. So for profit or loss of any object, we can also find the profit percentage or loss percentage. Now to find the selling price, when the profit percentage or loss percentage is given, we can use this two formula. So in the first, you can see selling price is cost price into 100 plus profit percentage divided by 100 in case of profit, whereas in case of loss, selling price will be cost price multiplied by 100 plus loss percentage upon 100. Okay. Next, let us see what is a discount. You have often heard the word discount. So the reduction given by the seller on the marked price to promote sales is nothing but discount. So whenever there is a opening of new shop, then they give discounts in order to promote their sales. So it is nothing but they show you the marked price of the object and how much reduction they are giving for that object. Whereas the marked price is the price written on the tag of that object. So discount is nothing but the marked price minus selling price. You can see the marked price will be greater than the selling price. That's why we have subtracted selling price from the marked price. So if there is an object with marked price 50 rupees and the selling price is 40 rupees, then the discount will be 10 rupees in that case. So here, if you want to find the discount percentage, we calculate it on the marked price. So discount percentage is nothing but discount upon marked price into 100. So this is similar to finding the profit percentage or loss percentage. Profit percentage or loss percentage are found on cost price. So here instead of cost price, we are taking the marked price and we are finding the discount percentage. For example, the marked price of a fan is 6,200 and a discount of 15% is allowed. Then what is the selling price of the fan? Now selling price will be what? It will be marked price minus discount, because discount is nothing but marked price minus selling price. So here you can see how the formula is used to find the selling price. This formula we are using here. As discount is marked price minus selling price, we are taking selling price or SP to LHS and the discount to RHS. So here we can see the minus sign for selling price. So on LHS it will become plus. Mark price will remain as it is. Discount from LHS it will come to RHS. So as it is positive on the RHS, it will become negative. So we have mark price minus discount. The mark price is 6,200 rupees. And what is discount? Discount is 15%. So 15% is written as 15 upon 100. Okay. 15% of what? Marked price. So we are multiplying 15 upon 100 into 6,200. So the first number will be as it is. We'll evaluate the second term. So we'll do the evaluation of 15 upon 100 into 6,200. So we get 930. That's why the final answer is 5,270. So this is the selling price. What was the marked price? Marked price is 6,200. And the selling price is 5,270. That means when you will find the discount will be 6,200 minus 5,270. This is what is meant by this result. Now let us see what is GST. GST has full form goods and service tax. It is charged on the base price and the billing amount always includes GST. Let us see what is billing amount. It is nothing but base price plus GST. So whenever you buy one object, they give you a bill, and that bill will contain the base price of that object plus the GST for that object. So if you want to find GST, given the GST percentage, you can find it by using this formula, GST percentage upon 100 into base price. Or you can find it as GST upon base price into 100 percentage. For example, if the cost of a shirt is rupees 500 and the GST charge is 5%, okay, then we need to find the billing amount. So in a shop, if the cost of a shirt is rupees 500 and they are charging GST as 5% of 500 rupees, then the billing amount means the amount you have to pay in the shop will be 525. Why? Because we are adding the base price plus the GST. GST is 5%, means 5 per 100 multiplied by rupees 500, because 5% of 500 we need to find. So it will be rupees 25. So I have to pay extra 25 on the cost price rupees 500, and that will be your billing amount. Now let us see formula for compound interest. Here you can see compound interest is found by A minus P, where A is amount and P is principal. But what is A? A is the amount to be paid or received at the end of n years. P is the principal amount. R is the interest per annum, and N is the time period in years. Okay. So if you want to find the interest compounded half yearly, then you will take interest per half yearly, means half of the interest per annum, which is R by 2, half yearly. So if N is in years, then 2N will be half yearly. That is number of half years. And this rate of interest will be half year rate. If the interest is compounded quarterly, that means you have to pay quarterly 4 times a year. So you have to divide the rate of interest per annum by 4. So it will be R by 4, which is number of half years, whereas number of quarters will be 4N. For example, if you want to find the compound interest on rupees 100, this will be our principal amount. For 2 years, this will be our time period. At the rate 10% per annum, means it will be our N. So let us see. Rupees 100 is nothing but our principal amount or principal. 2 years is nothing but the time period in N years. Then we have rate of interest as 10%. That's why we'll substitute the values rupees 100 into 1 plus 10 by 100 square. So this will be 110 upon 100 square, because we are equalizing the denominators. So we have rupees 121. This is the amount to be paid. So compound interest. So when a person takes rupees 100 and wants to pay interest for 2 years at the rate of 10% per annum, he have to pay rupees 121. So what is the compound interest calculated here? It will be amount minus principal. So 121 minus 100, which will be 21. So the compound interest at the rate of 10% per annum will be rupees 21 for rupees 100. Let us see some basics from the chapter direct and inverse proportions. So what is the direct proportion? Whenever there is increase in the variable x, there is an increase in the value of variable y. or whenever there is increase in the value of variable x, then there is decrease in the value of y. In such case, x upon y equals to k, which is a constant, or x equals to ky. Let us see the relationship among the two variables in direct proportion, or two quantities in direct proportion. So x1 upon y1 equal to x2 upon y2, where x1 and x2 are corresponding values of x, y1 and y2 are corresponding values of y. Here the cost of 12 pence is rupees 180. We have to find the cost of 20 pence. So what do you notice? The number of pence and the cost of the pence are in direct proportion, because as you increase the number of pence, the cost also increases, and as you decrease the number of pence, the cost of the pence will also decrease. So more the number of pence, more will be the cost; less the number of pence, less will be the cost. So here what we have, x1 upon y1. So what is x1 here? X1 is 12. What is y1? Y1 is rupees 180. What is x2? X2 is 20, and we have to find y2. So y2 is unknown here. So here you can see we have 12 upon rupees 180 equals to 20 upon y. Here you can see x1 and x2 are the values of x. So here x is nothing but the number of pence, y is nothing but the cost of pence. So how y is found? We will cross multiply and find the value of y. So y is multiplied here and 180 is multiplied here. Then we take 12 in the denominator and multiply 180 and 20. So we have 180 into 20 upon 12, which is rupees 300. So 20 pence will cost rupees 300. Let us see what is inverse proportion. Inverse proportion means increase in one variable value will result in decrease in the value of the other variable, or the decrease will result in increase of the other value. So here we have xy equals to k, or x equals to k upon y. So the relationship between the quantities, value of quantities in inverse proportion is x1 y1 equal to x2 y2, where x1 and x2 are corresponding values of x, and y1 and y2 are corresponding values of y. So here the example is, if 7 men are completing a task in 52 days, then the question is to find in how many days 13 men will finish the same work. So what do you feel? If the number of men increases, will the number of days taken will increase, or the number of days taken will decrease? More men to work, then less number of days taken for the task to get finished, correct? So the quantities are in inverse proportion. So more the number of men for that work or to complete the task, so less number of days will be required to finish the same task. So we have 7 into 52, which is x1 into y1. So here number of men represent x, number of days taken to finish the task is represented by y. So we have x1 y1 equal to x2 y2. To find the value of y, we'll multiply 7 and 52 and takes division by 13. So we have 28. So 13 men can finish the same task in 28 days. So here you can see the 7 men required 52 days to complete the task, whereas 13 men requires only 28 days to complete the task. Let us see some tricks for the exams. What is 5% of any number? So let us find 5% of 875. So to find this, you have to follow a trick. You have to follow these steps. For the given number, move the decimal point to the left by one place. So what we'll get? We'll get 87.5. Then upon dividing the number 87.5 by 2, what will we get? We'll get 43.75. Hence 5% of 875 equal to 43.75. So what do you feel? Is this trick simpler to use? Yes. Because otherwise what we would have done, we would have done 5 upon 100 into 875 and then some calculations. So instead of that, if you want to find 5% of any number, just move the decimal point to the left by one place. You have to assume that the decimal point is on the extreme right of the number. So here you can take the decimal point here and then you have to move the decimal point to the left by one place. So the decimal point will be placed here. So we have 87.5. Next step is to divide this number by 2. So you can try this to find the 5% of any other number as well. Now the number 400 is increased by 25%. How will you find the result? So the new number will be only the 25% of 400. How will you calculate the number? The new number is 400 plus 25% of 400, correct? So the new number is 125% of 400. Why? Because 400 is the actual number and then we are adding 25% of that number. So it will be 125% of 400. So we have 125 upon 100 into 400. Cancelling out the zeros, you will straight away get 125 into 4, which is 500. So this is a very simple trick. Here we are taking 400 because it is 100% of 400. So if you take whole of the 400, you will get 400, that is 100%, and 100% plus 25% is 125. Similarly, if the number is decreased by 25%, then you have to take only 75% of 400. So 75% means the remaining 75%, excluding the 25%. So we have 100 minus 25, which is 75% of 400, which is 300. So if the number is 400 and it is decreased by 25%, it means the number is 300. Let us see how to calculate compound interest and what are the tricks involved. While solving the problems on compound interest, you have to reduce the fraction to simplest form before taking the power of n. So here you can see you have to take the power of 3. Okay. So make sure this fraction is reduced to simplest form, otherwise the calculation becomes lengthier. For example, if you want to find the principal, if you want to find the amount when the principal is given, which is 12,600, the rate of interest is given 10% and the number of years is 3. Here 3%, here 10% is nothing but rate of interest per annum, as they have not given whether it is per annum or quarterly or. Let us apply the formula. It is A equals to principal into 1 plus R upon 100 raised to the power n. N is the time period required in n years. R is the rate of interest. P is the principal. A is the amount. So substituting the given values, we have rupees 12,600 into the principal amount into 1 plus 10 upon 100 raised to 3. So we have in the bracket, if we solve, we have 110 upon 100. At this stage, we have to reduce the fraction. So it will become 11 upon 10. So once we apply the power rule, or the when we write 11 by 10 is to 3 as 11 by 10 into 11 by 10 into 11 by 10, we'll get the required answer. Now, while solving problems on compound interest, you should read the question carefully to understand if the interest is compounded annually, half yearly, or quarterly. If it is annually, take the power n. If the interest is compounded half yearly, take 2n. If it is compounded quarterly, then take 4n. So here you have to be careful. Now the compound interest formula gives the amount and not the compound interest. So whenever you are using this and you are thinking that if you calculate the RHS, then you are getting the compound interest. It is wrong. It is giving the amount, including that principal amount. So if the question is about finding the compound interest, make sure to subtract the principal from the amount. So to find the final answer, you always have to subtract the principal from the amount. Now you have to read the question thoroughly to understand if the given situation is direct or the inverse proportion. So this is very important. So if there is an increase in x and it results in increase in the value of y, the quantities x and y are in direct proportion. Whereas if there is an increase in x but decrease in the value of y, then the quantities are in inverse proportion. While solving problems on direct and inverse proportion, make sure you are writing the data in tabular form. This will help you to reduce the errors. For example, a motorbike is traveling 220 km using 5 liters of petrol, and you have to find the distance it will cover using 1.5 liters of petrol. So you have to represent the data in this form. How much quantity of petrol and how much distance is covered using that quantity of petrol. So we have 5 liters, 220 kilometer covered using 5 liters. So how many distance will be covered using 1.5 liters? So in this way you have to represent the data. How many men, women, or how many extra men and women? So whenever you are dealing with these examples, if there are 5 men required to complete a task in so and so days, then how many extra men or women is required to complete the same task in so and so days? So while solving this problem, you have to understand the question carefully. For example, a workforce of 420 men under a contractor can finish a certain piece of work in 9 months. So how many extra men he should uh, employ to complete the work in 7 months is the question. So first we find the number of men required to complete the work in 7 months. Then subtract to find the number of extra men to be employed. So the extra men they have asked, not the number of men required to complete the work in 7 months. So if you miss or if you misunderstand this final statement of the question, your final answer will be up to this and not will be up to this. So you have to take care and read the question carefully. Let us see what are some common mistakes that students usually do. Profit or loss percent, discount percent, and GST percent. Always remember, profit or loss percent is calculated on the cost price of an item, not the selling price. Because it merely depends on the cost price of the item, whether the shopkeeper will get profit or loss. Then the discount percent is always calculated on the marked price and not the selling price. So here we have to substitute cost price with the marked price to find the discount per cent or per 100. GST percent is always calculated on the base price of an item, not the cost price. So whenever we are dealing with profit or loss percent, we are taking cost price in the denominator, as you remember the formula. Whenever you are finding the discount percent, you are taking the marked price on the denominator in the formula. And whenever you are finding the GST percent, you have to take the base price of an item and not the cost price. So if you see the cost price in the denominator for profit or loss, for discount we have marked price in the denominator. For GST we have base price in the denominator. Now to find the compound interest, we first use this formula, correct? Amount equals to principal into 1 plus r upon 100 to the power n. Now this formula gives the amount to be paid or received at the end of n years. But to find the compound interest, we should use this formula, amount minus principal. When it is compounded half yearly, we are taking the power to n. Then we are finding the compound interest using the values given. For example, find compound interest when the principal is rupees 2000, rate of interest per annum is 8%, and time period is 2 years. Now the interest is to be compounded half yearly. For that, we have rate of interest divided by 2 because it is half yearly, which is 4%. Then we have 2n time period. So we have 2 into 2, which is 4 half years. So this is the correct way of finding the compound interest half yearly and not this one. And at the last, to find the compound interest, you have to subtract principal from the amount obtained. Now to calculate the compound interest, when the interest is compounded quarterly, you have to take the power of 4n. If you substitute the values and the interest rate is compounded quarterly, so we are dividing the rate of interest by 4, which is 2%. And 4n equal to 4 into 2, which is 8 quarter years. So you can also see that in 1 year there are 4 quarters. So for 2 years there will be 8 quarter years. So the first way is the correct way of calculating the amount to find the compound interest, while the second way is the wrong way. And at the last, we have to subtract principal from the amount. Now the confusion is whether it is a direct proportion if x and y increase together. So we know that two quantities are said to be indirect if they increase or decrease together in such a manner that the ratio of their corresponding values remains constant. Whereas the two quantities are said to be in inverse proportion if increase in x causes proportional decrease in y. Consider for the example given below, the following table shows the ages of mother and daughter. So the daughter's age 5 years ago is 5, present age is 10, and age after 5 years will be 15, correct? But when the mother's age is 35 years ago, the present age is 35, and age after 5 years will be 40. Here you can see, if you take the ratios of 5 and 30, 10, 35, 15, 20, you can see D upon M is not constant. So are they increasing together? They are increasing together, but it is not the same every time. So here we have got 1 by 6, but here we have got 2 by 7, but here we have get 3 by 8. So d by m is not remaining constant. So variables increasing together or decreasing together need not be always in direct proportion. Now let us see what mistake a child can do when he or she is calculating the inverse proportion. So 15 workers can build a walk-in wall in 48 hours. So 15 workers for 48 hours. How many workers will be required to do the same work in 30 hours? So here they have asked how many workers will be required, not how many extra workers. Okay. So now we'll observe these two calculations. One is 48 upon 30 equals to y by 15. Note that the value should be taken as x1 upon y1 equal to x2 upon y2. So this method is correct. Here we are taking 48 upon 30 is equals to y upon 15. So here what they have done 48 into y, which is the correct thing. We have to cross multiply like this and then solve. So how to do the cross multiplication? Numerator of the first fraction gets multiplied with the denominator of the second. Okay, let us see some exam tips for this chapter. First is you have to practice a variety of questions from NCERT textbooks, exemplar other textbooks, and also from the previous year question papers. Next is you have to note down all the formulas separately to glance at before you are going to attend the exam. Then you have to remember the formulas for percentage increase or decrease, then profit or loss, discount, GST, and compound interest. Then you have to be very careful about what is given in the question and what you have to find. This will help you to find the correct formula for solving the given question. Also, you have to avoid calculation mistakes while you are solving the problems, and care should be taken to copy the correct numbers from the question paper to the answer sheet. Also, read the question carefully to identify when do you require to find direct proportion and when inverse proportion. And at the last, you have to check whether you have answered all the questions and parts of the question. I hope this session was helpful, and if you want to quickly revise the concepts, practice some extra sums and also take a quick test, Counting Well exam prep kit is here. It will let you glance through the major concepts of your chapter. You can glance through some solved examples, practice questions, and chapter assessments. You will also understand the tips and tricks, common errors that you make, etc. Over 75,000 students trust Counting Well for their maths learning, and even without the exam prep kit, they can learn every day on the app by diving deep into every chapter. You can download the app from the App Store or Play Store. Also, stay connected to our channel Counting Well and learn more tricks and tips and ways to avoid them. We will be revising the chapters Symmetry and Visualizing Solid Shapes from class 7 in our next live session tomorrow on 16 February at 6:30 p.m. Well, see you in the next session. Until then, keep learning and keep growing. Thank you.